She woke early on her birthday. The birds were calling in the garden as dawn crept around the blinds. He snored on beside her, his soft, whinnying snore. As she lay in bed, in the warmth of nothing to do, she was thinking of mortality. Not so surprising on a birthday, another year on the clock. Mortality, eternity, infinity have ever voided the mind, she reflected. Time and space without end challenged logic and reason, just as humanity knew it faced the obverse, a finite span, punctuated by death, non-existence. People had tried to make sense of it as best they could, of course, she knew, creating religions and philosophies and forming scientific theories of time and space, even of parallel universes and realities, although somehow these didn't help much when you were stuck in the one you were in. And yet, she considered as she lay there, had not mortality marked humanity as different from its gods, even superior in a way, as human follies passed into time, while those of the fickle, irascible gods were eternal? She slipped on her robe and went barefoot from the room. There was an early stillness through the house that she loved, in the muted fall of foot, as if on trimmed turf. The glass wall of the living room gave its green and pleasant vista of the woods behind. She picked out her favourite tree, the Japanese maple, in full leaf, perfection of form and balance. She tucked her feet up under her on the sofa and gazed out, and wondered if the purpose of her existence was to admire this tree. In which case, what did it mean if she outlived it? She put the kettle on for tea. There was a congenial ritual to its preparation that was considered beneficial. It framed the day, as did meals and drinks. The kettle was a vintage Whistler that she liked. She warmed the pot and put in 2 teaspoons in case he woke and wanted a cup. She poured in the boiling water, the vapour twitching her nose, found the tea cosy she had knitted with the big ruby strawberries on top, cloaked the pot, and waited for the tea to draw. She took her time. It was her birthday after all, and there was no need to hurry, not that there ever really was anyway. She poured the tea into her favourite cup, the cornflower blue one, delicate as a nautilus shell, with the white seaside daisy pattern on it, added a dash of milk, and went outside. It was a wonderfully cool morning in the hills. Rags of mist lay forgotten in the crooks of valleys. The tree-tops were stilled, and above them, in the hazy early light, the clouds curled in dreaming pillows. Gems of dew adorned pine needles. The steam from her cup rose and drifted off like half a question. There was so much time for everything, for the steam to dissipate before her eyes, and to watch each tendril fade. She sipped, the cup warming her hand. When she finished, she set it down on the garden table, where they had their wine at dusk, and walked down the garden. She reached out to the maple and touched its trunk, as one might the cheek of a lover. How could something so old still be so sapling smooth, as if it could be young for ever? Her trailing fingers left it, and she meandered on, along the narrow path with the forest thick and lush by either shoulder. She felt the humus and soft shreds of bark beneath her toes, and thought this was how it was to love. As she strolled, she wondered how they filled up all the hours. There was an endless horizon of them, days, years, decades. What did they do with all that? They ate, read, walked in the woods, watched films. She wrote poems and he took photographs. They devoted a lot of time to selecting wines and pored over vintage recipes. They read, they played squash and swam in the pool. They worked in the garden and watched the roses bud, bloom and shrivel to hips. They mulched, composted, grafted and pruned. They enjoyed their own potatoes, tomatoes and plums. Sometimes they made love, other times they went on picnics. They travelled all over the planet, even ascended Olympus Mons. They visited friends across the valley or in town, and sometimes friends came to dinner and they were talking to the small hours of politics and authors and joke about some silly new fad in art. Later the two of them would sit and pick over it all. It was engaging, nice, and passed the time. There was time for it all, and all in time. Nothing was ever early or late. Things happened, and the time passed. But there was so much of it, with unimaginably more to come. She followed the pathway down through the woods. Animals, including leopards, dingoes, bears and wolves, were increasing in numbers and could well be about, not that that was any real concern. They delighted in their presence, and Julie reported their sightings. She threw back her head and looked up. If you peered very closely, you could see the ultrafine membrane of their region's biodome. Beyond it, 2 tiny moons whirled around their planet. Winding to the bottom of the valley, the path led to their little stream, and she lingered by it. She touched the moss on a log. It was so soft it tingled her fingertips. She dangled her toes in the stream and giggled at how icy it was. As she did, the encrypted message she had been expecting came in from the society. Her gift was on its way. "Happy birthday," the chair said. She crossed the stream at the stepping stones and went on, climbing the far bank. There was another stand of trees there, these ones huge-trunked, towering, with a dark canopy. They called it their own wild wood, from the wind in the willows. She had loved reading the book to the children, so long ago. "Beyond the wild wood comes the wide world," said the rat. She padded along the path through the dark, dank, wonderfully musty, sour-smelling half of the wood until she saw what they called the hatch up ahead, the rectangle of light at the far end, and stepped out through it into the sun on the lofty rock ledge beyond it, just 3 or 4 paces short of the edge. The view was wondrous here, a joy, across the valley to the grand stone bluffs on the far side, brushed soft peach and rose by the early light. The drop-off was spectacular in itself, sheer and straight down to the rocks far below. It was always a bit dizzying to stand by that edge, even if in reality there was nothing to fear. She felt powerful arms encircle her from behind. "Early," he said, nuzzling into her neck. She kept looking across to the bluffs. "I'm so very happy, darling," she said. "Good, and just for the record, you are also so very beautiful." She turned around to him. "Are you sure?" she teased. "Your body might be a 20-year-old, he said, "but you still look wonderful as ever. I thought you might think it's time for a new body, for us both perhaps now." "Not yet," he said. "We've barely run these in, and haven't you seen the new models? No? The new skin is amazingly soft and supple, true, but the cheat-up features, the plump lips and bulbous breasts, the bulging pecs, I thought we were past all that." "Some things we're never past," she said. He kissed her. They had been together back to when they both still had hearts and bones, for so long now that friends good-naturedly gossiped. They didn't care. "Happy birthday, darling." "Thank you," she said. "And the big 200 coming up next year, eh?" She nodded and smiled. She knew that in that moment the last of her memory banks and all their backups were being secretly hacked and deleted from every single secure official data storage simultaneously by her friends in the society. Soon all that remained of her would comprise the tiny mineral webwork inside her carbon fibre cranium. And that cranium was strong, it was true, but no match for rock. "I'm making you a special birthday breakfast," he said. "Come on." "You go on ahead, darling," she said. He paused, shrugged, gave her his smile and started walking back. He knew her. "I just want to admire the view one moment more," she said, as he went back through the hatch.